Not allowed to. It won't pick it up properly
Yeah.
on the computer.
The people dialing into YouTube might not hear you though, so you got to turn the microphone on. Well, welcome to the Committee of Adjustment. It's now 5 o'clock. And do we have a resolution to open the meeting? Sandy? And seconded by Arnold. And do we have a mover to approve the agenda as circulated? Sarah? Sorry. I have a pen. Thank you. And a seconder. Sure. Thank you. And thanks for flipping it and then we'll. Next, I'll ask for any disclosure of interest tonight. Sarah?
Yeah, I am going to recuse myself from the new business 1B 2421,
Okay,
because when I was not on the committee, I submitted information about it, and well, I think I can be impartial. I think the perception of conflict needs to be acknowledged at a municipal level, so I'm going to remove myself.
very good. And Arnold? Any conflict? No. Sandy? No. And I have no conflict. Do we have any deputations for the consent application? It's being 1B 0723 and 1B 0823?
No.
No. So I'll ask the secretary to read the notice, please. Is that?
Oh,
Oh, you don't usually read the notice?
no,
Oh, sorry. Okay.
it's okay. Would you like me to?
You could choose to read the whole thing or give an overview. That would be fine.
Oh, okay. So the two notices that are before the committee this evening were circulated to neighboring properties within 60 meters of the subject property, being 1 Lynn Road in the municipality of Oliver Papoonge. Notice was also posted on the property, and agencies required through the Planning Act were circulated by email 14 days prior to the meeting.
Thank you. I'd like to call on the applicant now. Have you got anything you'd like to add to the application that we haven't seen? No? Okay. Well, if we have any questions, you're here to answer, so that's great. Sarah, do you have any questions or comments?
Questions?
Okay.
I saw in the mine information you circulated, there's like a high mineral
Mhm.
potential. What is that? What is the relevance for? I just don't know. When I tried to Google it and nothing came up, so.
Right, and I'm not familiar with the specifics of that either. They stated at the end that they have no other comments or concerns, and that information has been provided to the applicant for her files. So high mineral potential might just mean that the lands are near the microphone. Sorry. Yeah, sometimes it's a little picky. I mean, the lands just have a higher mineral value, essentially is what that means to the mines ministry. It doesn't mean that much to us as far as whether or not we approve the applications. I can email Sarah Ferguson from Mines to ask for some clarification on what that means for the next meeting, if you'd like.
That might be helpful, just because when I read that, it says that we have no other comments or concerns, but I wasn't sure, is that a concern then, or is it? just-
No, there's no
What is-
concerns. So the only time that mines has had a concern is when there's been an active mine or an abandoned mine close to a specific property. And they've made that very clear in their letter that they have a concern. And then they typically will work with an applicant to come up with some sort of permit or something like that to ensure that they're safe. So when we get letters in that regard, they don't have any concerns. It's just information about the land so that the owner has that.
It was probably because I've never seen a letter like that yet in the short time I've been here. Okay. And then that other Calvert Wing Gold thing is also not a problem then? That they referenced there being something within a kilometer of the,
Oh, no,
okay.
No.
I just didn't know about that either. The only other piece that I wondered about when I site visited, there was water over the road from the other side. Is that something that we need to be concerned about? How low that it could flood into the?
That's just a brand new. Right.
I did notice the same, but there wasn't a water course that we'd have to worry about velocity or volume. It is just that, a beaver dam. We should let our road super know though, so it doesn't do any damage to the road.
he's aware.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
Because I did see it top over the road as well.
okay.
That's it.
They work quick. Arnold, do you have any comments? Sandy?
No,
No? I did complete a site inspection as well, did notice the topping over the road. Also, I want to thank you for the good posting of the signs, very visible, placed in good location. Also, your additional map that I received that shows the buildings, that is required as part of the application. And once I saw the site, I could see that certainly you didn't have any problems with separation. Yes, yeah, beautiful lots and amazing views. That's all I have. I have no concerns. So I call on the Secretary Treasurer now. What would the usual conditions be for this application? For the two of them?
Our usual conditions are number one, that the original executed transfer deed of land form and one photocopy for our records be provided. Number two is a schedule to the transfer deed of land form on which is set out the entire legal description of the parcels in question and containing the names of the parties indicated on page 1 of the transfer deed of land form be provided. Number three, one copy and one electronic copy of the reference plan of survey bearing the land registry office registration number and signatures as evidence of deposit therein. A draft of that survey should be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer for approval prior to deposit. Number four is a letter of approval from the Thunder Bay District Health Unit be received by the Secretary Treasurer regarding sanitary sewage disposal systems. A payment of $1,000 cash in lieu of parkland for each lot be paid to the municipality of Oliver Papoonge. And that unless previously established, a 20-meter allowance measured 10 meters either side of the center line of the traveled road be laid out as part of the reference plan of survey, and that the part be transferred to the municipality.
Thank you. And those would be for both applications.
That's correct, yes.
Do you have any questions regarding the conditions? They will know what to do. So hearing no concerns, can we have a vote for approval on the application? Or what we'll do, we've got two resolutions
Yes,
here.
we do.
So for the first application, do I have somebody who, yeah, you'll move it? With the conditions as read? And
Those together.
oh, thank you. And do we have a seconder? So you'll sign the decision as well.
And up at the top. Right at the very top, it says mover.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
And a seconder? All in favor? And application 1B0823 with the conditions as read. Do we have a mover? And a seconder?
Thank you.
All in favor? Thank you. So both applications were approved with the conditions as read.
So what will happen is I'll prepare a notice of decision that you all receive as well as anyone who commented on the applications. That letter dated, it'll likely be next Wednesday. Will give a 20-day appeal period for any specified persons to appeal if they choose to. And then you have 2 years to meet all the conditions. I'll lay everything out for you in an email next week.
There's gonna be a meter by meter.
They would have sent you correspondence. You have to follow their direction. Yeah.
Thank you. And next, has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from the April 13th meeting? Any errors or omissions? All right. So we'll need a mover and a seconder for the minutes. Thank you. So at this time, Sarah, we're going to ask you to leave.
Before I need to leave.
You can go just out in the hallway and that way you'll know when we can call you back in. So you'll kind of hear what's going on.
We'll come and get you.
Thank
So next on the agenda is new business. And it's a request to remove the condition for application 1B 2421. I have had the opportunity to review the minutes of settlements as well as the request. I can do a brief overview or I could turn that to you, Sandy. Not Sandy, sorry, Carrie, I just read Sandy's name. I did note that there was a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment on the subject lands. And with very limited uses currently, you can have a vehicle storage yard, warehouse, woodlands yard, a satellite chip station, and then accessory uses being a business office to one of the above and building and structures in as accessory use to one of the 4 main uses. So I did take a look to see how many uses were permitted in the heavy industrial, and there's 28 uses permitted there. With the removal of the condition to rezone to disposal industrial, I thought that it was an improvement. That was just my observation after reading the documents and reviewing the zoning bylaw. So I'll turn it now to Carrie to give an overview and talk about the process.
Okay, thank you. In July of 2021, 2 applications were submitted by James Hockwell, one for a lot addition and one for a new lot. The initial public meeting was held August 12th, 2021, where the committee deferred making a decision, asking that the applicant have a traffic brief done to ensure that the entrance off of Germain Drive would not be detrimental to the area. That traffic brief was provided in late 2021, and a meeting before the committee was scheduled for February 10th, 2022, where a recommendation report was brought forward and subsequently approved by the committee. This decision was appealed shortly thereafter. Through the appeal process, it was determined that the application for a lot addition was not required, as the lands that were mapped as two separate lots had in fact legally merged, so they were only one lot. This application was formally withdrawn and a new sketch was provided showing this change and the new area values. These changes made no difference to the intent of the applications and did not change the proposed end result of it being a new lot. The appeal itself held the file up until the end of October 2022, when the appellant withdrew. Minutes of settlement were created as part of this withdrawal and are all provided in your packages. The applicant has now formally requested that one of the conditions of consent, being condition 7 on the long resolution that you also have in front of you, be removed. The original intent was to have the parcel be used as a waste disposal site, which required a zoning change from the current site-specific heavy industrial to disposal industrial. As this was part of the original application, the rezoning became a condition of consent. The applicant no longer wishes to proceed in this manner and would like the condition removed so that the consent conditions can be fulfilled and a new site-specific heavy industrial lot will be permitted. It's important to note that even if this application for consent had never come in, the property is zoned site-specific heavy industrial. That means that they could have any number of the allowable uses on the property within the parameters of the zoning bylaw, and can use the Germain Drive entrance without applying through the municipality, as that entrance was approved and already exists. This is simply an application to create a new lot that can be sold rather than a space that could be leased. As our chair mentioned, the current site-specific zoning of the property only permits a vehicle storage yard, warehouse, woodlands yard, a satellite chip station, a business office associated with one of the above uses, or building structures and uses accessory to the above. As per section 5323 of the Planning Act, notice of this request to remove a condition was sent out to anyone who provided comment during the original application process, or anyone who specifically requested to be notified of any decisions. There is no reason from a planning perspective why this condition can't or shouldn't be removed. Not requiring the rezoning reduces the intensive use that was originally proposed and the concerns that the residents had through the process. There is a resolution on the table this evening to remove that condition, and I fully support that being approved. We did receive a number of comments. I don't know if you want me to go through those or if you want to go through those.
Do we have anybody present to speak for or against the removal of the condition? Go ahead.
Stand up here.
Sure. You could sit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for letting us speak this evening, or me speak this evening. My name is Jessica Westbrook, and I have been voiced concerns for this application from the start. So since its onset, I've voiced my concerns with errors and omissions that were forming the basis of the provisional approval. I am concerned with the traffic that's going to be coming onto Germain, whether permitted or not, and additional industrial lots and use in this area. So I appreciate the fact that, yes, removing the disposal is wonderful, and that's great. What my concern was, and my key consideration, was that at the onset, there was an omission of that site-specific provision that you just mentioned. So a site-specific provision overrides a general zoning. So that application never indicated that it was actually HI-003, and you Lorna stated what that was. So the protections of those lots have been in place since 1989 and reaffirmed in the 2019 zoning bylaw. As you stated, the zoning bylaw is labeled for those lots, 33, 34, and 35, which this property is in, is labeled as that HI-003. And it states, as you said, the permitted uses shall be a vehicle storage yard, a warehouse, a woodlands garage, a satellite chip station, and a business office, etc. This site-specific zoning, as I said, overrides that general zoning, yet it was omitted in the application, in the planning reports, and in the request notice. So it appears that the conditional approval from the committee standpoint on February 10th assumed that the zoning for the property initially was just heavy industrial with all those uses.
So before you go too much further, the only thing that we can do tonight is to review the application, the request that was submitted, and that being the removal of the condition.
Okay,
This committee wasn't part of the approval
That's right.
process, and it is a conditionally approved application now.
okay,
And what they're doing is coming back and asking for the removal of the condition with the disposal
Okay.
site. So
yeah,
I guess we can't go backwards. We can
No,
only
and
go
that's-
forwards.
that's great.
But
So I
just so you're aware that we can't revisit the past application, we're only addressing the request tonight.
Absolutely,
Okay, good.
absolutely. We'll get to that, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so the other concern that I and others have had for some, myself, not for 12 years, but some others is the traffic safety on Germain. So this will play
That's
out
okay,
as I
yeah.
speak. The sketch omitted in that application, the location of internal road systems that the applicant uses for adjacent lots in 12, 13, and 14. And they travel through these retained areas out through a Highway 588 entrance. What happens with that? The map is in the notice that we received is different. There are no longer two retained lots. This has implications on the original committee's review regarding the location of the easement, which was located, I assume, in a position that would access both retained lots at the same time. So, and then go out to Germain, which is right now directly across from that residential driveway. And I've actually met with MTO since, and there were two other possible options, and there still are. That traffic brief studied the waste disposal company traffic. This new heavy industrial lot, and I put that in quotations, is unknown at this point. So we don't know what it's going to be used for. So it could create a safety risk on Germain Road and that intersection. The application now does not describe what that plan development, even within that restriction, it doesn't explain what that plan development is. If those other easement options, as I mentioned, which I won't go into detail, but are not pursued, the current traffic on the retained will be required to start accessing through Germain Road. And this includes at least 4 businesses. And they've never accessed out Germain ever. There's a cement plant, the aggregate operations, obviously, a material storage site, and an equipment auction business. It has never gone out that driveway. In fact, that driveway has been bermed since it was installed in 2016 for a previously unsuccessful application. And it was actually unfortunately allowed in 2018. And it was supposed to be for residential access only, but because of the way the condition was written, it was 3 years found to be invalid. Because of this condition being invalid, the traffic was never thought of or worried about because it was supposed to be residential traffic that came out, even though there's a whole backstory to that. But the point is, there was no traffic study done. So there was no traffic study done back then. I realize that this meeting is to remove a rezoning condition for disposal industry, which will then allow the other conditions to be met, which they probably might be, and separate an already zoned heavy industrial lot area, a new lot to be created. I've been told, and Carrie, thank you for your information, that it's not to create anything new, but it says right in that statement on the request notice, the applicant no longer wishes to rezone, blah, 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 but rather move forward with a new heavy industrial lot. If this rezoning condition is removed and the other conditions are met, it's going to create a newly severed heavy industrial lot within this area. It's going to go from within the same area, but it's going to create another lot. And that to me is an expansion of an intensification of the allowable uses. It's going to create a new easement. There's never been an easement there, and it will create a new easement. So that new easement is going to access Germain. And according to, the letters, all that traffic is going to legally have to come out Germain, all of it. It's never done it before for, the reasons of the previous application. It was never assessed or done before either. And it's for this reason that I respectfully request you to consider the following in your decisions tonight to allow the removal of this condition. I would love it if you could just postpone and be sure of all the information, but it's apparent you might be. So what I am actually asking is if you're going to approve this request, that you impose further or other conditions, including that the applicant be required to provide particulars of what the new heavy industrial lot is going to be used for, even under that heading of the restricted. The easement be approved as a result of a full traffic impact study to be conducted for Germain Road and its intersection with Highway 588, including that traffic that will be required to come through that easement. And because of the site's specific zoning being omitted, I would request that any decision on this request for removal require another condition that exact words of that zoning bylaw be stated in terms that mandates compliance.
So I do hear you and thank you for the information. However, under the Planning Act, we can't add further conditions.
Okay.
It's already an approved application. And but under the Planning Act, under Section 53, we can certainly amend or remove conditions if they're not required, but we can't add more.
Can the easement condition then be revised to state that it's as a result of a full traffic impact study?
I don't believe so, that the request to remove or amend a condition comes from an applicant, because as they move through their proposal, they determine that we don't need the disposal zoning anymore, so that's why they've asked. But typically when there's a request to remove or amend, it comes from the applicant and there's a good reason why. It doesn't happen all the time. I don't believe the clock will restart because we're just removing it. So the time frame to fulfill the conditions remains the same. Is that correct?
Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that when you change a condition, it resets the 2-year allowance to complete conditions.
I believe only for that condition though. Can you?
Sorry, Jeff, you're on mute. Is that for only the single condition or is it for all of them?
That would be for all the conditions. It restarts the clock for 2 years from the date of committee approval.
Okay, I stand to be corrected. I assumed it was for that condition only. Any condition that you amended or revised would start the clock for that and the rest would remain the same. So you're saying then the clock will be restarted if we remove that?
That's correct.
Correct. It's
It would-
reset for 2 years. Yep.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? No. Having heard no one else, I have a resolution before us this evening that condition number 7 on the long resolution for application 1B2421 for Hockwell Construction Limited being a condition requiring the proposed new lot to be rezoned from HI heavy industrial to DI disposal industrial be removed. Do I have a mover for this resolution to remove the condition? Oh, I'm sorry. Have you got any comments? Thank you, Sandy. Okay,
I'm not sure what I want to say, but Yiska mentioned that and it mentions in our package here that he wants to end up with a new heavy industrial lot. Am I correct?
It just means simply that if we remove that condition, then the zoning that's currently on the property continues.
I
Which is
understand
the
that.
site-specific heavy industrial lot, yes.
Okay, just that when she mentioned, and I read it as well, it speaks to a new. It makes me think. I don't know. I'm just talking about this, so I'm not sure. I'm just trying to say, can we take a condition off of an application and not make it where they need to have a new application? Because it's,
So, when this application was approved by the Committee of Adjustment, the conditions were laid out. I understand there was an appeal process that took place, that was withdrawn, and then it was approved, conditionally approved with conditions. So to create that new lot, as Carrie said, the original site plan looked a little different because it wasn't known that the lots weren't separately transferable, but the lots were not whole lots in a plan. And if they're not, then they merge under the Planning Act. So then that made it all one as opposed to two pieces.
okay,
But your decision with the conditions is active to create that lot. So we're not changing extra lots or anything else. We're not changing zoning.
no.
We're
I-
just
I
looking
understand
at
that.
your own decision that with the conditions as listed, one of them being the disposal site.
Yeah,
And maybe.
Madam
Carrie-
Chair, if I can maybe provide some assistance here.
Yes, please.
I think it's important for the committee to, and I know Carrie's already stated it, but I think it bears repeating that the existing zoning for the site is far less than what normally would be permitted in the zoning bylaw. The site-specific designation, and Carrie has listed the uses previously in her report, are only a handful. I think it's 4 or 5 uses, which are far, far less noxious than the potential uses listed in the comprehensive zoning bylaw. So it's far less than a normal heavy industrial site anyhow, because of its site-specific zoning. And that is the zoning it would have when the new lot is created. So I think that's important to bear in mind, is that it's far fewer potential conflicts than would normally be expected in the heavy industrial zone, number one. Number two, I think, and I think this bears repeating as well, a comprehensive traffic impact study was completed as part of this application for the creation of the new lot and including the easement. That study, and Carrie has it, and we've dealt with it previously at the public meeting and when this decision was made by the previous committee, stated that there would be no improvements required to the intersection at Germain Road. While I understand Ms. Westbrook has some concerns, she has brought forward no other evidence to the committee indicating otherwise, except anecdotal concerns. So here we have a traffic study prepared by a qualified civil engineer who is experienced in preparing traffic studies, did all the turning movements, analyzed everything, and has indicated through that traffic study that has already been completed that the creation of this one new lot in the easement would not have a material impact on the intersection at the Germain Road. And I think those two issues are forefront. I think they indicate both for Carrie's recommendation and my own that actually the removal of this condition results in far fewer potential land use problems than would potentially we might have seen otherwise. So this is a good thing. I think it makes it easier for the committee, and I think it's better for anybody who attended any of the previous public meetings, including Ms. Westbrook, that this is a better outcome for all involved.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for that. I did not realize that the traffic study included the easement as well. I didn't realize that. So thank you for clearing that
Yeah,
up.
it was for all existing and future development down the Germain Road.
Okay.
Arnold, do you have any questions or comments? Is that everything? Do you have anything further to add, Carrie?
I received a number of comments I feel like I would be remiss not to mention at the meeting. We received comment from the Lakehead Region Conservation Authority. They were circulated because they had requested to be notified. They have no objection to the removal of the original condition, stating that the subject property does not contain any floodplains, watercourses, shoreline, wetland, valley slopes, or other environmental features of interest to the Lakehead Region Conservation Authority. We received comment from resident Oscar Mattis, who I circulated the comments to the committee, but I also circulated my response to him. We received a request from Rod and Maggie and Ness to be notified of the decision of the committee. They also hand delivered a 2-page letter this afternoon stating further concerns similar to Ms. Westbrook. We received the 2 separate emails from Yiska Westbrook as well, which has been circulated to the committee along with my response. So.
Thank you. Hearing no further comments or concerns, are we ready to look at a resolution to be passed? Sandy? Do you have any other comments?
I have no more comments.
No more comments? So we do have a resolution that condition number 7 on the long resolution for application 1D 2421 for Hockwell Construction Limited, being a condition requiring the proposed new lot to be rezoned from HI heavy industrial to DI disposal industrial be removed. Do I have a mover? Thank you. And a seconder? And carried.
I can go and get Sarah if you'd like.
Okay. Thanks for coming out and participating this evening.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, Shirley.
Right, thank you. That's earlier. And Jeff has signed off.
Yes.
And do we have any other business?
Not for myself, no.
No. So, we have a resolution to adjourn the meeting at 5:37. Okay, thank you, Arnold. Seconded by Sandy.
All in favor?
All in favor?